Prime Minister Modi, it's an honor to welcome you to Facebook. And thank you to everyone here in Hacker Square and in our community watching us live in India and around the world. You know, India is personally very important to the history of our company here. This is a story that I haven't told publicly and very few people know, but early on in our history, before things were really going well and we had hit a tough patch and a lot of people wanted to buy Facebook and thought we should sell the company, I went and I saw one of my mentors, Steve Jobs, and he told me that in order to reconnect with what I believed as the mission of the company, I should visit this temple that he had gone to in India early on in his evolution of thinking about what he wanted Apple and his vision of the future to be. And so I went and I traveled for almost a month, and seeing the people, seeing how people connected, and having the opportunity to feel how much better the world could be if everyone had a stronger ability to connect, reinforced for me the importance of what we were doing. And that is something that I've always remembered over the last 10 years as we've built Facebook. So, you know, we had a great conversation last year in Delhi, and I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you and our entire community about how you see the future of India and the world. And when I think about the future, I'm personally excited about India for a number of reasons. First, one of the greatest opportunities we have in the world today is to connect everyone to the internet. The internet provides access not only to entertainment and communication, but also vital information around health, education, and jobs. In fact, for every 10 people who gain access to the internet, about one person gets lifted out of poverty and about one new job gets created. Now, there's still 1 billion people in India who we need to connect to the internet. And connecting them represents one of the greatest opportunities available to humanity today. So I'm deeply appreciative of Prime Minister Modi's commitment to Digital India, to make this enormous opportunity a reality for all Indians. And I'm personally also impressed by the example Prime Minister Modi has set of using the internet and social media to communicate directly with Indian citizens. Whether spreading messages of peace or campaigning for women's rights or children's development or Digital India, it's fitting that the leader of the world's largest democracy is also setting the example for all world leaders for how they should connect with their citizens in the future. When everyone can make their voices heard online, that's when we can have meaningful conversations about the future. And that's how society can come together and achieve these shared goals. So, you know, the last time that a Prime Minister of India visited California was in 1982. And a lot has changed since then. Today, India is a global leader. Indian businesses and culture are transforming people's lives around the world. And for India to keep making progress, India needs to be a leader online. And Prime Minister Modi, you are an example of what that looks like. So I'm excited to hear today about how you see these goals and why the world should be optimistic about the future of India. Thank you and welcome to Facebook.
Thank you. Thank you. Mark, मैं आपका बहुत आभारी हूँ।
Mark, thank you very much.
कि आज मुझे Facebook के हेडक्वार्टर पे आकर के
I'm really happy that I've been able to come
दुनिया
today
जिसके
to
साथ जुड़ी
Facebook's
है
headquarters.
उनके साथ मुझे आज
The people who are connecting the
रूबरू
world,
में
I'm having the
जुड़ने का अवसर
opportunity
मिला।
to connect with you today.
विज्ञान और अध्यात्म का नाता
Science and technology,
हो भी सकता है।
it's something that
मार्क ने आज न बताया होता
that if Mark hadn't mentioned this today, probably the world wouldn't have come to know about it.
अमेरिका से एक नौजवान कुछ करने के सपने देखता है
Many American youth have dreams of doing something,
और विज्ञान की दुनिया में जिसने
and
सफलता पाई
and those who are successful in the world of science
वैसे उसके
and technology,
उसे कहते हैं कुछ भी करने से पहले हिंदुस्तान जाओ
it's astonishing that their gurus would tell them to come to India before they do anything else, to go to a temple there
वहाँ जाकर के तुम अपनी
and
बात बताओ
and
तुम्हें रास्ता मिल
think about what you want to do and you'll find the way.
ये बात अपने आप में एक
I think this is really something quite incredible.
दुनिया के लोगों के लिए आज मार्क आपकी बात सुनकर के बहुत बड़ा
I
आश्चर्य
think people all across the world would be pretty surprised to hear what you said today, Mark.
कि
And I
जो प्रेरणा आप
hope that the inspiration
जिस प्रेरणा
that you got
को प्रारंभ किया है
and the inspiration that helped you to start what you've started,
ये सिर्फ
I hope that will not just be
बैंक अकाउंट को बढ़ा
something to enhance your company's
ये
bank balance.
दुनिया के करोड़ों करोड़
I hope
आवाज बने
that you will be the voice of millions and billions of people all over the world.
लोगों के एस्पिरेशंस की
I hope you will be able to become a medium for the hopes and aspirations of millions and billions all over the world.
सामान्य मानवी की आशा आकांक्षाओं की
And I hope that the aspirations that people have all over the world, I hope this will keep that flame alive. And in that spirit, I salute
धन्यवाद
your spirit, I salute what you have done, and I thank you for it.
आपने सवाल पूछा
You did ask the question,
कि लोग भारत के प्रति
why, I mean,
बड़ी आशा भरी नजर
that there is a lot of optimism when people talk about India, and what do I feel about that?
जब आप भारत आए
So when you
किसी
came to India,
आशा भरी नजर
you went to a temple in India with a lot of hopes.
कहाँ से कहाँ
And look from where to where you've reached.
आपका अनुभव कहता है
So your experience
जो भाषा
shows
से
that
आशाएं अपेक्षाएं हैं
those who
पूरा करने का
come to India with certain hopes and aspirations, there is something that will help you complete that, to meet those hopes and aspirations, and that's your experience is showing you that.
सबसे बड़ा लोकतंत्र
India is the world's biggest democracy, and if you look at that from an economic perspective, now whether it's the World Bank, IMF,
दुनिया की सारी
or the world's rating agencies,
एक स्वर से सब लोग कह रहे हैं
all of them are saying in unison
बड़े देशों
that among the big economies in the world today, India is one of the fast-growing economies in the world today.
आज हम $8 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमी
We are an $8 trillion economy today,
मेरा ड्रीम है
and my dream
$20 ट्रिलियन
is to become a $20 trillion economy.
और उस काम को करना है मुझे
And I
तीन
need to focus on three aspects if I have to achieve that vision. One is the agricultural sector, the service sector, and the manufacturing sector.
आप वो लोग दुनिया से जुड़े हुए जिनका सबसे बड़ा
You
कंट्रीब्यूशन
are associated with the service sector,
और मैं सर्विस सेक्टर की ताकत
and I have seen that the service sector is an extremely powerful sector. And if we look at tourism alone, just tourism,
भारत के पास टूरिज्म के क्षेत्र में
India has such a huge potential in the field of tourism. It has a huge potential for job creation. And
विश्व
if we
निकट
look at the technology that we have today, which has brought the world so close together,
कर दिया
it has created a kind of feeling of oneness. And obviously, if tourism grows, there will be more jobs in the tourism sector, in the service sector,
बड़ी ताकत बनती
And I think that really can lead to a lot of strength.
है कि पिछले साल सवा साल
In the last 1 to 1.5 years,
नजरिया बढ़ा
the view that people have of India, I think if you
किसी विदेश
ask any Indian or if you speak to somebody from abroad,
गर्व के भाव से देखता है
generally most people are very proud when they look at India, when they speak of India. It's amazing how quickly perceptions about India have changed in such a short period of time. And it's
महीने में सबसे बड़ा काम हमारा
in the last 15 years, I think one of the major things that we have done is to restore that lost confidence that people in India, that people had. We've brought in a new level of confidence,
वही चीजों में
and
बदलाव करते हैं
I believe that that is what brings about change.
पेशेंट भी
A patient in the intensive care station of a hospital, when he knows that my doctor has come, will be looked after, he gains a new confidence that he will get well.
वाला पेशेंट भी बाहर आ जाता है
And even a patient in the intensive care unit can come out.
All right. So we have the first question from the thread. We received more than 40,000 comments and questions on our Facebook post about this town hall. So that's pretty incredible engagement. And several people have flown in today to ask their questions. But before we call them up, I actually am going to start with one for you. You were one of the early adopters of the internet and social media and Facebook. And did you at that point think that social media and the internet would become an important tool for governing and citizen engagement and foreign policy?
जब मैंने सोशल मीडिया को अपनाया
When I took to social media, even I actually didn't know that I would become a chief minister at some point. I would become a prime minister at some point.
तो मैंने ये तो सोचा नहीं था
So I never ever did think that social media would actually be useful for governance.
तो एक टेक्नोलॉजी
When
क्यूरियोसिटी रहती
I took up and I got onto social media, it was basically because I was curious about technology. And I saw that I'd been trying to understand the world through books, but I think it's a part of human nature that instead of going on to textbooks, if you have a guide, it's far easier.
और गाइड से भी अगर कोई
And in fact, if instead of a guide, if somebody can give you pretty sure suggestions of what to do, it's even better.
सोशल मीडिया ने ये काम किया
And for me, that's what social media actually did.
कम समय में दो चार शब्दों से
Within a very short span of time, within a few words, I used to get what I wanted to know. And the other advantage that I had is that I'm not very educated.
भाग्य नहीं
I wasn't fortunate enough to be able to get a lot of knowledge, but I
सोशल मीडिया ने
was able to make up for that through social media. And that is how my world used to move.
मेरी थॉट प्रोसेस
And it really brought about a big change in my way of thinking.
आसपास की दुनिया से ही सोचता था एक पूरे विश्व के दायरे
I
तक
used to
छूने का मुझे अवसर
think about things which were initially close to me, and I kept now expanding my horizons, kept broadening them, and as I kept doing that,
मैं जैसा हूँ वैसा
the world too started accepting me for what I am.
इंसान के लिए सबसे
And I think the most important thing for any individual
जैसे
is that
जब दुनिया आपको स्वीकार करती है
you are accepted for what you are. If the world accepts you, I think that is something which really makes you feel happy and satisfied.
लोग कहते हैं यहाँ
Because otherwise, people say you're good, but if you were that, you would be better. But you're fine. But if you're on social media, would be a little better.
आप जैसे हैं वैसे दुनिया स्वीकार करती
But when the world accepts you for what you are, I think that is something really wonderful. And I think that also helps you to move ahead, to progress.
है वो इस दायरे को बढ़ाने वाला नहीं
So for me, That was something that really shaped my experience of social media. And when I came into government, all these doors opened for me.
सरकार का एक प्रॉब्लम होता है
I saw that one of the problems that governments have
जनता के बीच
is that there is a big gap between the government and the people.
और जब पता चलता है तब
And, you know, sometimes 5 years go by, then you have the next elections, and then you come to know that, you know, we were just not connected with the people.
सोशल मीडिया के कारण डेली
So with social media, you have daily bonding.
बात कर रहा हूँ अभी
So I'm talking to you, you have daily voting. So, you know, right now, as we speak, people are voting that what is Modi saying, is that good or bad?
आज सोशल मीडिया की ताकत है
So the strength of social media today
वो गलत
is that it can tell governments where they're going wrong. It can stop them from moving in the wrong direction. It can make them aware and worried about going in the wrong direction, and gives them an opportunity to do a course correction. You know, you used to have elections after every 5 years, but now we have it after every 5 minutes. So I think this is a huge strength of democracy.
सभी राजनेताओं से दुनिया के
And I think I would say to leaders all over the world that you're not going to gain by running away from social media. You must join it, try and join it.
अच्छी सरकार तब चलती है
You will be able to have a good government
चैनल
if you have many channels of information.
और रियल टाइम इंफॉर्मेशन मिलती है
And you need real-time information.
सरकारों के पास पहले मैकेनिज्म
Earlier, governments had mechanisms, but those mechanisms were quite slow.
के बाद जब न्यूज़पेपर आता था
Sometimes, you know, we used to get the news after 24 hours when we get the newspaper that something has happened. But now we can come to know almost instantly when something happens in any corner of the world. So this real-time information is a huge source.
गवर्नमेंट जागरूक है
And if a government is active, it's aware, it's alert, then it can use this real-time information to take corrective measures, to use that to influence their policy framework, and it can also help them speed up their work. And when I look at it from that perspective, I think social media has played a very big role as far as government is concerned. Now, you've also asked me about diplomacy.
पहले क्या होता
Now, what was diplomacy earlier? You used to have capitals of countries that were in touch with one another. Like, for instance, Delhi was in touch with Washington or with Tokyo.
नेताओं से जुड़ते थे
We used to have leaders who were in touch with each other. But now, when you have social media, you have the citizens of countries who are connected to one another.
चाइना में सोशल मीडिया का अलग
In China, of course, social media has a different structure. So in China,
मैं भी वहाँ भी एक्टिव हूँ
I'm active there as well. I'm active on their social media too.
और मैं वहाँ चाइनीज लैंग्वेज में कम्युनिकेट करता हूँ
And I communicate in Chinese.
आपको हैरानी होगी
I think you'll be surprised to know
वीवो पर
that in China on
उनके प्रधान
Weibo,
जन्मदिन की बधाई दी
I congratulated their prime minister on his birthday. And for Chinese citizens, it was the news that it was their prime minister's birthday.
और वो इतना वायरल हुआ
And it just went viral. It went viral all across China. And I think nobody would ever have imagined that this is what diplomacy is going to look like. I don't think anyone ever thought that.
मैंने इजराइल के प्राइम मिनिस्टर को उनका एक फेस्टिवल होता है
There is a festival in Israel,
उस फेस्टिवल
and
हिब्रू भाषा में
in Hebrew, I sent congratulations to their prime minister. And that also went viral.
सबसे बड़ी पंजाब तब आई जब उन्होंने मुझे
But the best was when he sent me the thanks in Hindi.
अब देखिए ये डिप्लोमेसी
So look at that. This is a completely new face of diplomacy. It's directly linking with the people.
एक परिवार
And perhaps if the world is a family,
ये सोशल मीडिया
This is something that social media is a catalyst in promoting, and I think social media is really playing an enormous role here.
One of the reasons why so many of us here at Facebook admire your leadership so much is that we deeply agree in our mission with so much of what you just said. So thank you for that. Our next question is from Veer Kashyap. Veer, why don't you tell us where you're from?
Morning, Prime Minister Modi and Mark. Thanks for having us here. I live in Bangalore right now, and I moved to India 8 years ago, and co-founded babajob.com because I saw a great promise to be able to impact India's digital revolution and enable millions of people throughout the country to get better jobs using the internet. I always felt like, much like governments in the past have had to invest in physical infrastructure, like building roads and railroads. In this day and age, I feel like governments, one of the main roles they should be playing is to invest in the digital infrastructure, which will allow its citizens to get connected and be able to be productive citizens of the global society. So, Prime Minister, my question to you is, what investments is your government going to make to enable the next 800 to 1 billion people in India to get connected?
वीर, मैं आपका बहुत आभारी हूँ कि आपने
Thank you very much, Veer,
भारत आकर के
for coming
हंसी बजवाने के लिए
to India and trying to
किया है।
making it in India.
वीर से प्रेरणा लेकर के
I think,
यहाँ के और भी
I hope more people will be inspired by Veer to come to India.
ये बात सही है कि भारत ने दो
It's true
बातों पर
that in India we'll have to focus on two things equally.
फिजिकल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर
One, of course, is the physical infrastructure.
नहीं सकते क्योंकि
And that's something that is something we really will have to do because that's a requirement in our country.
डिजिटल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर
And the other is the digital infrastructure.
पहले ये काम करूं फिर दूसरा करूं
I
फिर
think there's no point in saying that, first I'll do this and then I'll do this next thing and then I'll do the next thing, and we'll waste a lot of time in doing that. We need to approach and tackle all of these simultaneously.
आज के 21
My conviction really is that now in the 21st century,
उतना ही
we see that the importance that highways have had is, the same kind of importance is going to be that for highways.
भारत में 600,000
In India, we have 600,000 villages.
नंबर ही इतना बड़ा है कि
That's such a huge
लोगों को वहीं से डर
number that people just get scared listening to that number.
और करीब 2.5 लाख पंचायतें
And we have about 250 local governments,
कोशिश है
local bodies.
कि नेक्स्ट 5 ईयर में
And what I hope is that in the next 5 years, we will be able to link all these villages through a optical fiber network.
जो लोग भारत से परिचित हैं और
All those of you who are familiar with India, and in fact, if you look all over the world, you'll see that civilizations have generally tended to develop, they've settled along rivers. We've had cities coming up along rivers, but times have changed now.
शहर वहाँ बसने लगे।
Cities then shifted to highways. And I think in the future, we will find that cities are going to be situated along networks of optical fibers. And that's something that we need to keep in mind. We need to keep this in mind for the future.
टेक्नोलॉजी को बहुत बड़ी मात्रा में
So in our system of governance, we are placing a lot of priority on technology.
इफेक्टिव गवर्नेंस करना है
It's important for us to have effective governance, to have easy governance
इकोनॉमिकल गवर्नेंस
and economic governance. And I think for all these things, technology is very important. So it's a compulsion for me and for my government that we have
इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बल हो
a proper digital infrastructure. And as far as the funding is concerned,
दुनिया में पैसों की
I don't think there is really any lack of funds, of capital in the world. There are many countries who don't even know where to invest their money. So I'm giving them the address. Here's the place.
All right. Our next question is from T.S. Khurana, who actually works here at Facebook. So T.S., where are you from?
Well, I was born in India, but we immigrated to the U.S. in 1971, and I learned my English on the streets of Kentucky. Prime Minister, welcome to campus, and Mark, thank you for hosting us on this fine early Sunday morning. My question for the Prime Minister is, do you think it's become easier in the last 15 months to do business in India or not? You introduced a program called Make in India to cut red tape, but there is a perception that the pace of reform is slow. Do you think that Make in India will ultimately be successful?
देखिए एक स्कूटर जब टर्न करना होता है
Look, if you want to turn a scooter,
it takes half a second.
it takes half a second.
पता चला हाँ यार स्कूटर ऐसे जा रहा था
Yeah, but you see, okay, the scooter was going straight and suddenly turned, to the right. But if you want to divert a train traveling at 40 kilometers an hour, well, obviously, you would keep thinking, okay, my God, where's the train? Where's the train? It hasn't turned yet,
इतना बड़ा देश
So when you have such a big country,
आपको एक बदलाव
and you want to bring about change,
बहुत सारे होते हैं
and there are many things that need to be changed, and when you have changes that are taking place, eventually you have a cumulative effect that takes place after some time, and then you feel, yes, there's been a change. But
40 साल पहले
now when you look at India 40 years ago,
राष्ट्रीयकरण हुआ
you had the
इस मकसद से हुआ
nationalization of banks,
कि बैंक
and this happened because banks should work for the poor, or the poor should be able to use them. But in the last 40 years,
population
60% of our population didn't even have a bank account.
अब काम हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा उसका हिसाब कैसे लगा
So how do you really keep track of what is happening and what is not happening?
180 million लोग
In 40 years, you've had 180 million people who didn't have a bank account. And
100 days
my government came to powers, and in 100 days, and seriously, in 100 days,
80 million
180 million bank accounts were opened.
अब आप स्पीड देखो
Now,
स्केल देखो
look at the speed, look at the scale,
कैसे हो गया भाई
and just say, how on earth did that happen? How did something that didn't happen in 40 years happen in 100 days? Now, that, I think, is the speed of change.
जिस प्रकार से अभी मैंने एक अभियान चलाया और वर्ल्ड
In the same way, I've just recently started a program. The program is called the Ease of Doing Business, and it's something where we're working together with the World Bank.
140 नंबर पे खड़ा
So on the ease of doing business scale, India is at rank 140 in the world.
नहीं सोचेगा
And naturally, people are really going to think that why should we come to India?
तो कागज लेके बैठता है वो कोई देखने
Because,
फेसबुक
like unlike Facebook, people are not going to go to the temple and get inspiration from there. I mean, they're going to look at the papers and say, why should we come to India?
अब ये आज मार्क की बात सुनकर के लोग सोचते
So maybe listening to Mark today, people might say, forget about the paperwork, let's first go to a temple.
हैं हमने तय किया कि हमें ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस
But we said we want to introduce ease of doing business, and I've taken all the states on board. We're a federal government, and in fact, the states are very powerful. We call them in, we ask them what are the problems to ease of doing business. We made a list, and in fact, the World Bank just did a ranking, and I was surprised. I was astonished, in fact, that suddenly among our states we have an unprecedented competition taking place. Each state is trying to outdo the other on the ease of doing business scale, and we've had unprecedented achievements in the last 6 months. And this is something we've just managed to do. And I think that the next time this ease of business rating is carried out, I'm pretty sure that we're going to move very high up in the rankings. And so that's one thing. Now the second thing is, what is the secret to Make in India, to its success? No, nobody in the world will want to close down their own company. Everybody wants to succeed in a competitive world. Now, we are here at the Facebook headquarters, but supposing you would have to pay, if you have much less of an investment, if you have to just give 1 million in India and you have to give 10 million here, I mean, will people come to India or won't they come here? So the low-cost manufacturing that we can offer, effective governance, skill, manpower, raw materials.
And the biggest market in India.
And the biggest market in India. So these are what we have. This is the potential that we have. And I don't think that this is something anybody can ignore. I think this is, frankly, a paradise for any manufacturer anywhere in the world. So I think there's a huge potential, and people can be successful. You would have noticed that in the last 15 months, we've had foreign direct investment from the United States growing by 87%. Among the foreign institutional investors, we've had a very rapid growth. And the average of FDI is about 40%. And currently, given the world's recession, and most of the world has minus 16%, and we here are plus 40%, and I think that itself is very indicative of how successful India has been. And I certainly believe that Make in India is going to be successful. I also think that we have certain assets that other countries don't have. We have the 3Ds. The 3Ds are in fact our unique strength. It's really unique.
Demographic dividend.
We have the demographic dividend, we have democracy, and we have demand.
800 million population below.
We have a population of 800 million who are below 35 years of age. So it's a young country.
Vibrant democracy.
It's a vibrant democracy.
Vibrant judiciary.
We have a vibrant judiciary, a vibrant media.
Like-minded countries के लिए ये बहुत बड़ी.
So I think that for like-minded countries, this is an enormous opportunity.
1.25 billion people.
We have 1.25 billion people. I think that's a huge demand. And I have added a new D to these 3Ds, and that is deregularization. I'm trying to free everything of government controls. I'm telling everyone to take off. The government has no business to do business. It's not our job to run a hotel. Other people can run the hotel, and they should run it well. And it's these things that I think, Mr. Khurana, I think that these things will give us a lot of opportunities, a lot of potential.
All right, our next question is from Dr. Ranjana Kumari, who has, I think, just flown in from Delhi. Doctor, will you tell us where you're from and your question?
जी हाँ, मैं भारत में दिल्ली में महिला सशक्तिकरण के लिए Center for Social
Women's Empowerment in Delhi. I've been working in the Center for Social Research in Delhi. I'm the director, and we've been working on these issues in India for a long time, for the last 30 years, in fact. My question to you, Prime Minister Modi, is that a lot has been said about women and women's empowerment in India, and everybody is keen to know what is your stand on women's empowerment, on women and the girl child, and especially progressive India, which the dream of India, of a progressive India that we have. What is your thinking on the role of women and of girl children in that country, in that vision?
उन पहलुओं को और ले जाऊंगा
There are two aspects, and I think there are some people who may not like this, but when Mark spoke about the temple, I think I should say something. I mean, I do want to share an anecdote as well.
दुनिया में भगवान की कल्पना सभी समाजों में है.
All societies all over the world have some conception of God. Every society has that belief.
पुरुष ही है.
But in most societies, the gods are male. I think every society.
अकेला हिंदुस्तान.
I think India is the only country where we have a female as a goddess.
दुर्गा.
You have Durga, you have Saraswati, you have Amba, Kali.
मूलभूत हमारे
So
का जो अधिष्ठान है.
the values, the fundamental values that we have is where a woman has a very important place. And it's true that over thousands of years we've had a certain deterioration, certain diversion. Perhaps this is what has happened over the years. But as far as the government is concerned,
अगर अपने आर्थिक विकास के लक्ष्य प्राप्त करने
if we want to achieve our economic goals, then
घर के अंदर बंद रख
we cannot do that if we imprison 50% of our population inside their homes.
इस 50% नारी शक्ति
This 50% of our population, the female power of our population,
से कंधा मिलाकर के
must
पार्टनर
become, we must have 100% partnership with them. They must walk shoulder to shoulder with us. And this has to be the focus of the government's policies, and we are trying to achieve that.
एजुकेशन ले लीजिए.
Now, whether you look at education in India today, you look at health, what we see is that for a male, you will actually have to make a reservation.
अगर आप आज
So what I mean to say is that
एजुकेशन फील्ड की मीटिंग
if you call people and have a meeting on education, there would be 800 women, there will only be 200 men.
बड़ी मात्रा में पूरी एजुकेशन एक्टिविटी
I think as far as education is concerned, a lot of it is today in the hands of women. Now, if you look at the health sector,
हेल्थ सेक्टर की कोई कॉन्फ्रेंस कर लीजिए.
if you do any conference on the health sector today, you will again find a very large number of women represented there. You will find a large number of women in the nursing staff and the paramedical staff. In fact, women have literally taken over these jobs. We've recently taken decisions regarding the police department. We have certain union territories over which the central government has direct jurisdiction. We have reservation over there for women now in the police.
आज भी दुनिया के कई देश हैं
And I think there are many countries in the world today where it's very difficult for women to win elections.
बहुत ही पढ़े लिखे देशों में भी
Even in countries that are highly educated, you see that.
इलेक्टोरल प्रोसेस में
But in India, in the electoral process,
गवर्नमेंट में
you have many states where in the local governments you have a 50% reservation for women. So if you have 100 people who are there in the local body, you will certainly have 50 women, and that's not a small thing.
पार्लियामेंट असेंबली में भी
In the parliament, we are having a debate that we should bring in women there also, and make sure that they have a participation in legislation. And I certainly can say that we will have to achieve one thing as far as female empowerment is concerned, and that is to bring in women into decision making. It's not simply enough for them to be home builders in the sense of deciding what color the walls should have. They should be able to decide in the real building of it. Only then can the country move ahead. And
और इस दिशा में अब जैसे हमने एक अभियान चलाया बेटी बचाओ.
we've recently had the campaign of Educate the Girl Child, Save the Girl Child. And in fact, when I was
45
Chief Minister of Gujarat, in fact, in the month of May, we have a 45 degrees Celsius temperature.
इन जून के
In June and on the 12th of June 2013, 14, 15, I used to go to the villages. I used to go there. I used to go from house to house. I used to tell the people there, you must send your daughters to school. You must educate them. And I was able to achieve 100% education for girls. And my aim today is that we need to push this campaign, Save the Girl Child, Educate the Girl Child. And there are many such programs, many such programs that the government has.
गरीबों को मकान देते हैं.
For instance, if we have a scheme for giving housing to the poor, one of the conditions is that the owner of that house must first of all be a woman, and the second name would be that of the man.
दाखिल करते थे.
Earlier, when we used to admit children to school, the father's name used to be written on the admission form, and in Gujarat, I made it compulsory that along with the father's name, you must mention the mother's name as well.
जीवन की जो पुरानी सोच है
So the mindset that we've had in the past, the way of thinking in society, is something that we must overcome, we must change. As far as the economic governance is concerned, I think all these things are something that we will change, and I do think a change is happening, a very big change is already happening.
All right, so for our next one, I want to ask you a personal question. People may not realize this, but there's actually a number of things that we have in common. One of them is that family is very important to me and to both of us. And in fact, both my parents are actually here today, so welcome, guys. They'd rather come watch you than they're right here. They're right here. Now, I understand that your mother is very important in your life, so I'm hoping that you'll tell us a bit about her.
मैं उन माँ बाप को बहुत बधाई देता हूँ.
I'd really like to congratulate the parents of Mark for actually giving birth to Mark and actually giving birth to someone who has managed to link the world. Congratulations.
I request, will you please stand up? Would like to see you.
Could you please stand up? We'd like to see you.
और मुझे लगता है शायद ये पहली घटना होगी कि मार्क ने आज आप.
I think this is probably the first occasion that Mark's actually invited you to.
हर किसी के जीवन में, आप किसी भी व्यक्ति के जीवन में देखें.
I think if you look at anyone's lives, if you look at their autobiographies, generally you find two things are always there. One would be what was the role of my teacher in my life, and what was the role of my mother in my life. I think that's true of everybody. I come from a very humble family. My parents played a very big role in my life. I came from a very poor family. You probably know that I used to sell tea at the railway station. Nobody could have, I think no one can imagine that.
कि दुनिया की इतनी बड़ी डेमोक्रेसी ने
It's hard to imagine that a tea seller has actually become the leader of the world's biggest democracy.
और इसलिए मैं सबसे पहले उन 125 करोड़ भारतवासियों को नमन करता हूं.
And I'd like to salute the millions, billions of citizens of India who made a commoner like me one of them.
बहुत सामान्य परिवार में से कैसे गुजारा करना.
And of course, there's also the question of when you come from a humble background, how do you manage?
हमारे पिताजी तो रहे नहीं हैं.
My father, of course, is no longer with us.
माता जी है.
My mother is still there. She's over 90 years old now.
अपने सारे काम खुद करती है.
She does everything herself. Even now, she does all her work herself.
पढ़ी लिखी नहीं है.
She's not educated.
उसको समाचारों का पता रहता है.
But through television, she knows what's happening around the world through the news.
अब जब हम छोटे थे,
when we were small,
गुजारा करने के लिए
what we used to do to get by,
अड़ोस पड़ोस के घरों में
was that we used to go to houses, our neighbors' houses nearby.
बर्तन साफ करना.
We used to clean the dishes, fill water.
मजदूरी कर रहा,
do hard chores.
आप कल्पना कर सकते हैं कि एक माँ ने
So you can imagine what a mother had to do,
अपने बच्चों को बड़ा करने के लिए
what a mother had to do to raise her children.
कितना कष्ट उठाया।
What she must have gone through.
सिर्फ नरेंद्र मोदी के केस में नहीं है,
And that's not just the case with Narendra Modi.
ऐसी लाखों माताएं
In India, there are hundreds and thousands of women like that, hundreds and thousands of mothers like that,
अपने बच्चों के सपनों के लिए
mothers who've sacrificed their entire lives for their children.
और इसलिए मैं सभी माताओं को
And that is why
शत शत वंदन करता हूं और
I'd like to thank mothers everywhere
उनके आशीर्वाद न हमें शक्ति दे,
and I hope that their blessings will give us strength to remain on the right path.
माँ की सबसे बड़ी ताकत
And
होती
I
है।
think that is the mother's biggest strength.
माँ कभी नहीं चाहती है कि आप,
A mother will never want
लेकिन माँ हमेशा चाहती
that you become something, but she will be more focused on how you become something, how you become anything. It's not what you become that a mother is going to want or wish for. It's how you become that. And I think that is why this is the biggest contribution in anyone's life, what the role the mother plays. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
More questions?
I think it will be too late.
Okay. All right. It's such an honor to have you visit us and to do this town hall Q&A from our campus this morning and this evening in India. So, thank you.
मैं फेसबुक का बहुत आभारी हूँ।
I'm very grateful to Facebook for giving me the opportunity to meet all of you and to you be able to use this medium to meet people all over the world. Thank you once again. Thank you very much.